Greg Biffle might be making his return to the NASCAR Cup Series. It looks like he might be racing for NY Racing in this year's Daytona 500, and the 2022 SRX schedule has been officially revealed. What's going on, guys? It's Daniel, and welcome back to another video. We've got a ton of NASCAR and other motorsports stories discussed here today on the channel. Let's go ahead and just jump straight into those very, very quickly. We're going to start off all the paint scheme and sponsorship news first. The first paint scheme we're going to take a look at is Ryan Sieg's 2022 CMR construction scheme that we're going to see throughout the 2022 season. This paint scheme looks pretty good in my opinion. They do a really, really good job with sponsorship as well. It's a nice looking paint scheme, very similar to last year's, but I think Riley Daly does a really, really good job on paint schemes, and I'm looking forward to see this paint scheme out on the racetrack in 2022. It looks pretty good in my honest opinion. The next paint scheme we're going to go ahead and take a look at is AJ Allmendinger's 2022 ChevyLiners.com scheme that we're going to see in the Busch Clash. This paint scheme looks pretty good in my opinion. It looks very similar to their test cars, which those test cars look really, really good. I think they do a really good job utilizing the sponsorship placement as well. Love the color contrast, and I'm looking forward to see his paint scheme out on the racetrack in 2022. It looks pretty great in my honest opinion. The next paint scheme we're going to take a look at is Todd Reddick's 2022 Cheddar Scratch Kitchen scheme that we're going to see in quite a few races in 2022. Last year, I was a major, major fan of the Cheddar Scratch Kitchen schemes. I was very worried that the number placement being moved and stuff would ruin the scheme. It has not done that. It looks really, really nice. The number's not in a bad position either. I think RCR has done a pretty good job. They've had some hit or miss paint schemes this year, but I think this paint scheme overall looks really, really good. I think did a solid job on it, and I'm looking forward to see this paint scheme out on the racetrack in 2022. The next paint scheme we're going to take a look at is Josh Bliggy's 2022 Pacific Coast Termite scheme that we're going to see in Auto Club. I think this paint scheme looks pretty good in my opinion. It's not my favorite paint scheme that has been revealed from the Josh Bliggy group. I think the Ziegler scheme that they're running this year, I think looks really, really good. But this paint scheme is not bad. Numbers not in a bad position, and overall, whoever designed this car, I think did a pretty solid job on this paint scheme, and I'm looking forward to see this paint scheme out on the racetrack in 2022. The next paint scheme we're going to take a look at is Todd Gilliland's 2022 FirstFaceCar.com scheme that we're going to see in many races this year, including in the opening race at the Busch Clash. This paint scheme is all right in my opinion. I'm not a big fan of the colors that they have on the car, but I will say having a new sponsor like First Fake Card that's kind of involved with the Speedy Cash companies, I think that's something that should be really, really happy for everybody, and I think that's a decent looking paint scheme, and I'm looking forward to see this paint scheme out on the racetrack in 2022. The next paint scheme we're going to take a look at is Zane Smith's 2022 SpeedyCash.com scheme that we're going to see at Texas Motor Speedway for the Truck Series race. This paint scheme is better than last year's, I will say. I was not a big fan of the SpeedyCash.com paint schemes last year that Anthony Alfredo had, but I will say that this paint scheme looks pretty decent for the Truck Series, and one thing I will say is I did not like the baby flames. Thank God those are gone. It's overall a major, major improvement, and it's taken a step up in paint schemes. So I think it's a decent paint scheme, and I'm looking forward to see it on the racetrack in 2022. And the final paint scheme we're taking a look at as of now is Riley Herbst's 2022 Monster Energy paint scheme that we're going to see in most races in 2022. This paint scheme looks pretty good in my opinion, very similar to last year's, not much more to say. I think Riley Herbst's schemes have looked really good. It's such a shame that overall the driver is not the best driver, even though I will say he has taken major improvements. But I think it's overall pretty decently looking paint scheme, and I'm looking forward to see this paint scheme out on the racetrack in 2022. And now we're going to go ahead and jump on to the next story of today's video as we're talking about OfferPad. As it looks like OfferPad has moved away from Joe Gibbs Racing, and it looks like that they will be sponsoring Kaulig Racing as an associate sponsor or sponsoring the drivers throughout the season. OfferPad last year sponsored Joe Gibbs Racing for the first time. They also sponsored the Door Bumper Clear Pockets and also sponsored Dirty Mo Media as well. OfferPad sponsored Denny Hamlin for quite a few races, unless they may stay with Joe Gibbs Racing. I'm not entirely sure on that, but it's definitely interesting overall that OfferPad is continuing to stay and work with Kaulig and move away from Joe Gibbs Racing and go over to Kaulig Racing. That's something very, very interesting. So kind of crazy story for sure. Did not expect that, but OfferPad moving to another company, at least they're going to be going ahead and staying in 2022. Very interesting, to be honest with you. And now we're going to go ahead and jump on to the next story of today's episode as we're taking a look at the new logo for the 2022 Echo Park Automotive Grand Prix. There's been a change in regards to that logo. I think the logo looks really, really good in my opinion. I like what they've done with it. Of course, last year we saw Echo Park Automotive basically sponsored this race last year. So overall, they're going to continue their sponsorship heading into 2022 for this event. And I think the logo looks really, really nice. They did a really, really great job on it. And I'm looking forward to see this logo and looking forward to this race as well later in the year. And now we're going to go ahead and jump on to the next story of today's video as we're talking about all the tentative schedules for at least some of the upcoming races that will be taking place here very, very soon. First, let's talk about the Atlanta tentative schedule. On Friday, practice will happen for all 3 series, which will be 50 minutes each. Then on Saturday, qualifying will take place for all 3 series, and then Trucks and Xfinity Series races will take place. Then on Sunday, the Cup Series race will take place. For Circuit of the Americas, here's a tentative schedule. On Friday, Trucks and Xfinity will have their practice and qualifying, followed by Saturday, which will have practice in qualifying for the Cup Series. Then the Trucks and Xfinity Series races will take place. And then on Sunday will just be the Cup Series race. So for every Sunday, pretty much, it looks like it will just be the Cup Series for many, many weeks. Then for Richmond, here's a tentative schedule. On Friday, the Modifieds will take the racetrack and take the green flag from that, have their practice, qualify, and their race. For Saturday, Xfinity and Cup will have their practice and qualifying sessions, followed by the Xfinity Series race, which I believe will be a night race as well. And then on Sunday, the Cup Series race will take place. And then finally, Martinsville's tentative schedule has also been released at this time. And on Thursday, it will be Xfinity and Trucks practice and qualifying with the Truck Series race taking place. There will be only one Truck Series race, by the way, in 2022 as well this year. Then on Friday, we will have Cup practice and qualifying, and then we'll have the Xfinity Series race as well that day. And then for the Cup Saturday, the Cup Series race will officially take place. Overall, I think these tentative schedules are really, really good. Of course, having the Cup Series focus just on being the only event of the day, I think is not something that should be shocking, to be honest with you. And those are the tentative schedules that we will see in 2022, at least up to Martinsville. We probably sooner or later there should know more about some of the tentative schedules coming up here very, very soon. And now we're going to go ahead and jump on to the next story of today's episode, as we're talking about Reed Sorenson. As Reed Sorenson looks like we'll be spotting for Landon Castle at the Busch Light Clash here this upcoming weekend. Of course, you know that Landon Castle will be in the Busch Light Clash in the number 77 for Spire Motorsports. Reed Sorenson, for those you don't know, Reed Sorenson was a driver that was really hyped up back in the mid-2000s. Won quite a few Busch Series, or what we call the Xfinity Series now. Won quite a few Busch Series races back in the day. Won in 2007 and I think in 2005 as well at Gateway, and also won a couple races in the early 2010s as well. But over the last couple years, Reed Sorenson has kind of faded from being a driver and now has been a spotter for the last few years. Overall, having a driver like Reed Sorenson be the spotter, I've heard he's been a really, really good spotter, so that's something I think that should be really, really promising. And I hope that Reed Sorenson can do a really, really good job as a spotter, and hopefully he can help Landon Castle have a good year, because I think he'll probably be the spotter for Landon Castle. And it would shock me if he is the spotter for Josh Blicky as well here in 2022. And now we're going to go ahead and jump on to the next story of today's episode, as we are talking about Freddy Kraft. As Derek Kraus confirmed this past week to Casey Campbell that Freddy Kraft will be spotting once again for Derek Kraus in 2022. Freddy Kraft was Derek Kraus' spotter last year. Of course, Freddy Kraft is also Bubba Wallace's spotter this year, again in 2022 as well. Freddy Kraft, whether your opinions are not about the Door Bumper Clear podcast, I think that Freddy Kraft overall is a very, very solid and is a really, really good spotter, and I think he will do a really, really good job helping out Derek Kraus once again in 2022. Derek Kraus this year will be looking to try to improve on his performance after kind of having a sophomore slump this year. Derek Kraus, as they move over to Chevy, the Bill McAnally organization, they'll be looking to improve this year, and hopefully, with the help of Freddy Kraft being there, they can help him out, and hopefully he will have a better year in 2022 with Freddy Kraft being a spotter. And now we're going to go ahead and jump on to the next story of today's episode, as we're talking about the LA Coliseum. As Adam Stern reported this past Friday, that sponsored place signage is starting to be applied to the LA Coliseum ahead of next weekend, well, this weekend technically's race, the Busch Light Clash at the LA Coliseum. There is a lot of hype and a lot of talk around this event. If you talk to people in the LA area, there's so much hype around this event due to a lot of advertising. And there has been so much advertising for this event. Now, of course, the Pro Bowl is going to be taking place this weekend, which will be the first bowl. Once again, usually the Pro Bowl usually takes place during the time the Clash takes place. But I think that this year there's a very strong possibility that the Pro Bowl may end up getting beaten by the Busch Light Clash. And honestly, I prefer the Busch Light Clash anyways over the Pro Bowl every single year. That being said, though, I think it's really, really cool to see that the LA Coliseum is getting the signage approval. I think it looks really, really good, and I'm happy to see that the signage is finally starting to be applied for the race. I think that's something that's really, really cool, to be honest with you. As I'm currently editing today's video, Darlington just announced that they are no longer selling its Backstretch Coleman grandstands. Anyone who already have tickets for the Backstretch will receive the same pricing options in the Pearson Tower. And apparently, as of currently at the moment, they're just wanting to enhance the front stretch of viewing of the race. They're no longer offering those Backstretch grandstands. I think that's definitely unfortunate that they're not allowing those Backstretch grandstands anymore, considering I think having the race, watching the race from the Backstretch at Darlington, I think is really, really awesome. So that's overall really unfortunate that they're no longer offering those Backstretch grandstands, but it is Darlington's decision. They're trying to just enhance the front stretch. I get what they're doing, but I think it's really unfortunate they've gotten rid of those backstretch grandstands, to be honest with you. And now we're going to go ahead and jump on to the next story of today's episode, as we're talking about Bristol Motor Speedway. As this past Thursday, work is beginning to take place at the Bristol dirt track. They're starting to apply the dirt, which of course this race is going to be starting and will be taking place on Easter, which will be on April 17th. They're using all the dirt that they used last year, all the clay and other basically things that were from the track. They have it, I think, supplied not too far away from the racetrack, and they will be applying it here for the race will be taking place on Easter night. Honestly, I wasn't a big fan of them having the race on Easter originally, but I think it could be a massive, massive wins rating overall. And I know that last year's event was a hit or miss event. I know that they had rain problems and stuff, but I thought the event was really, really cool last year. So overall, really cool to see that they're beginning to work on Bristol Motor Speedway, getting that track applied and getting that track ready to go. I think that's something that's really, really cool, and I'm happy to see that they're officially starting to work on it for 2022. It's not too far away. We're only about 2 months away from it, and hopefully we'll get some dirt ringers out to that event as well. And now we're going to go ahead and jump on to the next story of today's episode, as we are talking about Ty Gibbs. As there were some T-shirts that are starting to be revealed for the NASCAR Xfinity Series season, as we're about 20 days away from the Xfinity Series starting. Basically, it looks like the Ty Gibbs number for the Xfinity Series in 2022 is going to be 54. While it's not been officially at this time announced that he will be driving for Joe Gibbs Racing full-time, we know at this point, everyone in the industry knows at this point, that Ty Gibbs will be driving the 54 for Joe Gibbs Racing in 2022. No surprises here. The 54 car was basically his number in 2021 when he won 4 Xfinity Series races as a rookie, which was very, very impressive. Ty Gibbs is someone who has a lot of potential and a lot of potential to win a Cup Series championship here in the near future. And I think that Ty Gibbs will be looking this year in Xfinity to try to win his first Xfinity Series championship. And I think having the 54, the car that helped him have a really, really strong year, makes a lot of sense. So good to see that that will be the number he uses, and I'm happy to see that they're using the 54 for Ty Gibbs in 2022. And now we're going to go ahead and jump on to the next story of today's episode, as we are talking about Landon Honeyman. As Landon Honeyman will be competing in ARCA East full-time in 2022, driving the 02 car for Young's Motorsports. He's joining Young's Motorsports development program and will drive the 02 this year. And it's expected at some point later in this year, at a track that's not announced at this time, that he will be making his Truck Series debut in 2022. I don't know much about Landon Honeyman. Apparently, he's a late model driver, and there's a lot of hype around him. I don't really know much about him, but hopefully Landon Honeyman with this team can do better, very much better than Tony Breininger did. No offense, Tony Breininger. She kind of struggled this year. I think she's got potential, but she did really struggle last year with this team. So hopefully Landon Honeyman can do very, very well. And if he gets into that, I think it's cool to see that he's getting an opportunity to also have a Truck Series debut at this point, if he does really, really well. Because I think that's one thing that's going to be very important for Landon Honeyman, is he's going to have a good year with Young's Motorsports and ARCA East. That being said, though, he's got a good opportunity. The goal is to try to get some experience, and hopefully if he does well enough, he can get some Truck Series starts in 2022. So hopefully Landon Honeyman will get an opportunity at some point to race in trucks, and good to see that he will make his Truck Series debut in 2022 at some point as well. That's pretty cool that Young's Motorsports is giving him that opportunity. And now we're going to go ahead and jump on to the next story of today's episode, as we're talking about Tanner Reef. As Tanner Reef will be driving the 9 for Sunrise Ford in 2022 in ARCA West. Tanner Reef is a 16-year-old upcoming driver who's been racing on the West Coast for quite a bit of time, and he's a driver that has a lot of potential and a lot of talent. Tanner Reef will be taking over the 9 car. I believe it was for Trevor Huddleston, who's been in the 9 car for the last couple of years. He'll be driving that 9 car this season. What Tanner Reef will be looking to do is, of course, contend for a championship, because this 9 Sunrise Ford has been a championship contender over the last couple of years. But like I said, one thing he'll be looking to do this year in 2022 is to be looking to hopefully get some experience for the future, especially for this team, for Bob Percotti's team. You're going to be expected to be a championship contender in this car. I know at a young age that's a lot of pressure for a younger driver, but you're going to be expected to perform very, very well. So that's one thing I'm really, really hoping for him, is he can come into this team and do very, very well this year. And hopefully he can this year contend for championships. I want to see anybody that comes in the series especially succeed. So hopefully this year he can do really, really well and have a great year this year. So good luck to him, because he's going to need it this year with Bob Percotti's team. And now we're going to go ahead and jump on to the next story of today's episode, as we're talking about the tentative clash schedule for this year, the announced clash schedule, excuse me. So for practice, it'll take place from 12:30 to 2:30 Eastern, which will be split up into 3 separate groups. I think it'll be split into 12 drivers each, and it'll be split up into 3 groups of practice. Of course, you don't want all 36 cars on the track at the same time with how short the track is. They don't want to split it up into they don't want to split up and have everybody go out at once. Then single car qualifying is going to take place at 8:30 Eastern, and that will basically set up for the heats that will take place on Sunday. Speaking of which, the heats are going to take place at 3 p.m. Eastern, and then the main race is going to be taking place at 6 Eastern. Originally, the main race was supposed to take place, I think, at 7 or 8 Eastern, but I think they wanted to have a lot of more people on the East Coast have an opportunity to watch. And it originally wasn't going to be a night race, but now it's going to be a day race, unless, of course, it takes 3 or 4 hours to get the race overall in. Overall, I really like this clash schedule. No, basically, they'll take 23 of the 36 drivers that are a 10 minutes event. Kyle Larson is already, of course, locked into the overall event, but I think overall the schedule looks really, really cool, and I'm happy to see that the Clash is going to be taking place at LA Coliseum. I know that people are hit or miss on the event, but let me just say this. I think it's cool that they are having the Clash this year at the LA Coliseum. I think it's really, really exciting, and it's going to basically open up the possibility of other things in the future if the event goes really, really well. So that's something that's really, really great, to be honest with you. As I'm currently editing today's video, NASCAR made some more updates in some of the rules in regards to the LA Clash. And one thing that's going to be very, very interesting is there actually are going to be no cautions at laps that are not going to count throughout the clash regarding the heats or basically the main race. Caution laps are not going to count. NASCAR says 2 to 3 crew members still to be determined will be allowed in the infield, and some set of tools in the infield will be issued, flat, fender flapping, etc. If they have an issue with the car, they'll basically let 2 or 3 crew members work on the car as well. One thing that's very interesting is they're basically going to be no caution laps counting throughout the event. I think that's something that's very, very interesting about the format as well. So I think that's pretty crazy that caution laps are not going to count for the Clash as well, to be honest with you. And now we're going to go ahead and jump on to the next story of today's episode, as we're talking about Clay Greenfield. As was announced this past weekend, Clay Greenfield revealed this on Series 7 NASCAR Radio. He will drive the 84 for Cook Racing Technologies at Daytona, and Cook Racing Technologies is planning to run at least 5 races with other drivers to be determined at this time. For those who don't know, Cook Racing Technologies is basically Bruce Cook's organization, and to give a backstory on Bruce Cook, Bruce Cook was Ron Hornaday Jr.'s crew chief for many, many years in the NASCAR Camping World Truck Series back in the day, and led Ron Hornaday to a championship, I believe, in 2009, and also, I think, in 2007 as well. So I'm overall a big fan of Bruce Cook and happy that he is going to be having his own team this year. I'm not sure what alliances they're going to have this year, so that's one thing we'll have to wait on that front. But it's cool to see also that another Truck Series team and another team is basically going to be showing up throughout the season. So overall, I think that this is something that's very, very exciting and really, really cool. And I hope that this team can make this year's Truck Series event. We're not sure how many. We do at this point expect that there are going to be a lot of teams that are going to be going home. There's talk right now that nearly 50 trucks could show up at Daytona. There's talk at least right now that 48 could show up for this year's Truck Series event. And I think it's awesome to see that another Truck Series team is showing up this year. I think that's something that is very, very awesome, and I'm really happy to see that they are showing up this year in 2022. I think it's pretty cool and pretty exciting, to be perfectly honest with you. And now we're going to go ahead and jump on to the next story of today's episode, as we are talking about Mary Auer. As was announced this morning that Mary Auer has been named co-owner of Auer Motorsports starting in 2022, and she is the official owner of the 02 car for Brett Moffitt heading into this season. For those who don't know, Mary Auer is the wife of Chris Auer, who is the owner of Auer Motorsports, a team that is beginning to show a lot of upbringing and a team that has been on the upground moving over the last year or so. After a pretty decent year in the NASCAR Xfinity Series with 2 cars where they scored top 10s and top 5s over the year and some pretty decent finishes throughout the year, this team is expanding to a 3-car operation heading into this year, with Brett Moffitt returning, Jeb Burton driving the 27, Anthony Alfredo driving the 23. Having her join the organization and being a co-owner of the team is really, really cool, and it's like a family business, having a wife and husband basically run the organization, a team that I think potentially in the next couple years could join the Cup Series. I think they are the next caller racing. And like I said, having her join the team, I'm not sure how much business work she's done in the past and what she's done in that kind of role, but having her in the ownership group, I think is really, really awesome. And I'm happy to see that she's joining ownership group. Hopefully she can help Brad Moffitt in this team get some wins. I think their expectations are going to be a little bit better this year. I think they could get some top 10s, they get some top 5s through the year. I'm not sure if they're going to win races unless we go to like a super speedway and maybe like call it racing and get some super speedway victories. But overall, very happy to see that she is joining the team as an owner, and I'm glad to see that she's joining the ownership group heading this year. Hopefully, she can have a great year with this team in 2022. And now we're going to go ahead and jump on to the next story of today's episode, as we are talking about Kyle Weatherman. As was announced this morning, that Kyle Weatherman will officially be racing the 92 for DGM Racing in 2022. He will drive in at least the first 5 races in 2022 and will be a teammate to Mason Massey, who will be driving the 91 for this team heading into 2022. I am very, very happy for Kyle getting another opportunity. Of course, we already knew that Kyle Weatherman was not going to be returning to Mike Harmon's organization for 2022. But having Kyle join the DGM group, this is a little bit of an upgrade for him. And Kyle Weatherman, I think, is a very, very talented driver. He's gotten top 15s and top 20s at points with the Mike Harmon Racing organization. And the guy has a lot of talent and a lot of potential. Plus, I got to support him because he is a Missouri native. And, of course, I'm from Missouri. So having a guy like Kyle Weatherman get another opportunity, I think is absolutely incredible. And Kyle has become a really, really popular underdog driver. And I think that Kyle Weatherman could be someone this year, especially in the 2022 season. Kyle Weatherman could be someone who could be very, very underrated this year with DGM Racing. It's unclear how many races he's going to run with this team. We know he's going to run at least the first 5. I would assume that he's probably going to run a majority of races this year in that 92 car. Now, what are my expectations for Kyle Weatherman heading into this season? I expect that Kyle Weatherman will have better performances this year in this team. I'm not saying he's going to win races this year or going to get top 5s or top 10s, but I think that Kyle Weatherman could be an underdog to get some top 15s and some top 20s throughout this year. Josh Williams in the same car last year got a few top 10s and got quite a few top 15s and top 20s in the last couple of years. And I think that if DGM Racing does upgrade their performance with Alex Bay most likely come back in the team, I think that Kyle Weatherman has potential to do really, really great this year. I like Kyle Weatherman a lot. I'm really, really happy for Kyle. Kai deserves this opportunity once again. He's been very underrated throughout his career, got an ARCA win for crying out loud, and having him return to this team heading into this year, I think is really, really awesome. I'm glad to see he's going to DGM this year. Hopefully he can do very, very well, and hopefully he can help the performance of this team and help them have a great year in the NASCAR Xfinity Series in 2022 and help this team build up a trajectory, and hopefully they can have a great year in the NASCAR Xfinity Series heading into 2022. And now we're going to go ahead and jump on to the next story of today's episode, as we're going to talk about Dillon Jr. and the Rolex 24. Now, Dillon Jr. said during the broadcast of the Rolex 24 that he expects that Kyle Larson, Chase Elliott, and even Tyler Reddick will race in the Rolex 24 in the future or some point. I also was told that Sam Mayer apparently is also interested in racing in the Rolex 24. Now, Kyle Larson and Chase Elliott have both competed in the Rolex 24 in the past. Kyle Larson has competed, I think, in 2015 and 2016. I think also in 2014 as well. And he actually won the Rolex 24 in 2015 with Chip Ganassi Racing. Chase Elliott competed in the Rolex 24 in 2021, where he wasn't overall the fastest driver in that car, and they actually had a shot to win, but I think they had mechanical problems and got some damage earlier in the race. I think Chase caused that damage early in the race, but they got some splitter damage, and unfortunately, I think they had to go to the garage early in the race as well. Now, Tyler Reddick is someone who's not competed in the Rolex 24 before, but he's someone who is, I think, a very solid road course racer, and I think if he would race in the Rolex 24, I think he would drive in a GTD car. Sam Mayer would not also surprise me either. Sam Mayer has competed in road course racing as well in the past, and I think he's a pretty decent road course racer as well. And as Dale Jr. mentioned, the reason we did not really see any other many drivers from NASCAR race in this year's Rolex 24 is because of the next-gen car. The only drivers that had association with NASCAR last year that raced in this event was James Davison, and he was a last-minute grab after Guy Cosmo was not, unfortunately, able not to race, and Austin Cindric drove the 15 Mercedes AMG car. And like I said, the reason that we really didn't see a lot of people race is because of the next-gen car, and there's a lot of commitment that you have to put into this race. Back in the day, and Dale Jr. mentioned this during the broadcast, back in the day, there was a test session, you showed up to that test, and then you went racing. That's not the case anymore. You have to have a lot of simulator time in these cars, and it's a lot more time commitment that you have to put in. And you have to think about, like I mentioned, with how much commitment these drivers are having with the new next-gen car. It's not a surprise to me that we didn't see a lot of drivers race. But I do expect starting in 2023, and like Dillon Jr. said, I do think next year we're going to see a lot more drivers in the Rolex 24. I think Chase Elliott will be back in the race. And actually, what's kind of funny is Action Express Racing had actually offered Chase Elliott to be the fourth driver for their car. But because Chase Elliott was so committed to the next-gen car and also racing the Chili Bowl, Chase Elliott decided not to race in the Rolex 24. That being said, though, I do agree with Dale Jr. I do think that in the future, we're going to see a lot more drivers racing in different events. And one thing I really, really liked, especially over the last couple of years, is the crossover that's been happening in motorsports. I think something that's been really, really awesome is something that's been very, very fun to watch over the last couple of years. So I think it will happen. I think that we're going to see Dale Jr., as Dale Jr. predicts, I think in the next couple of years, we're going to see a lot more NASCAR drivers like Chase Elliott, Kyle Larson, Tyler Reddick, probably Sam Mayer. I would not also be surprised if we see guys like Bubba Wallace maybe give an attempt at it. Austin Dillon again, because Austin Dillon competed in the Rolex 24 last year. I think that we are overall in the next couple of years going to see more drivers race in the Rolex 24 in the NASCAR world. And I think we're going to see over the next couple of years a lot more crossover happen in other motorsports. So hopefully that happens. I hope it does happen because I think it'll be great for motorsports to see the collaboration. And now we're going to go ahead and jump on to the next story of today's episode, as we are talking about the Busch Light Clash. Adam Sir reported this morning that he says that about 50,000 people are expected to attend the Busch Light Clash at the LA Coliseum this Sunday. Also reports that Fox Sports says it will use its Skycam along with drones to help shoot the event. First, let's talk about the Skycam and stuff. I think it's really, really cool. They've done the Skycam in the past. We've seen this with dirt events as well, where they basically follow cars. I think having the Skycam come back for Fox is something that's really, really cool, and having drones flying around. I think that's one thing that Fox does a really, really good job of, even though they've not done a lot of great things. I think that one of the best things they've done is had the Skycam. Now let's talk about the fans and 50,000 fans. I know some people are going to be very disappointed considering the LA Coliseum, I think, holds about 67,000 to 68,000. That being said, though, it's not entirely surprising. I think they may be a few restrictions for LA right now, not probably too many, but there probably are some restrictions being put in place, and probably they're having a cap of how many people are allowed into the event. If they wanted to, they probably could have more people show up, but unfortunately, it doesn't look like that is the case. But you have to also think about some other aspects and other important factors overall as well. International Raceway hosts, I think, about 40 to 45,000 people in their stands, and Sonoma only holds about 45 or 47,000 people in their stands, and they never seem to get full attendance. So that is not overall a very, very surprising thing that they're not overall having major full attendance. But I think especially you think about how many new fans are going to be there as well. There have been reports and indications that 70% of the fans that are going to be showing up at this year's LA Clash are fans that have never been to a NASCAR race before. So I think that's one thing we should overall be really, really happy about, and not these other factors. Again, I wish that more people could show up than 50,000, but I think the most important thing is grabbing those new fans that are going to be in attendance. Having 70% of the people that are showing up be going to their first NASCAR race, I think that's something that's really, really cool. I know it's a little disappointing that not more are showing up than that, but I think that is something that's very, very important to note, is that important fact. So overall, I know that's not as many people as people would like to think that are going to show up. I thought we'd see a few more than this, but I think 50,000 fans is really, really cool. And I think if the event goes very, very successful, we could see more events like the LA Clash. I mean, they're talking about already having this again next year as a points-paying event. But to me, if you're going to have this event, it needs to either be the Clash or it needs to be the All-Star Race. You can't have it in the middle of the season. I don't think it works. But overall, very interesting for sure that 50 only as of right now. 50,000 fans could be showing up for the event, but this event, I think, could be very, very accessible, and that is going to happen this week, by the way, so hopefully the event goes really, really well, and I'm really excited for the overall event. And now we're going to go ahead and jump on to the next story of today's episode, as we're going to talk about the Xfinity Series or Truck Series fields. While it has not been officially announced at this time, the Xfinity Series and Truck Series fields are expected to be announced later today. So here's what the field sizes are going to look like for Xfinity Series and Truck Series. So as Jim Meta reports, there will be 36 Camping World Truck Series entries in 2022 that will qualify in for the events. And for the NASCAR Xfinity Series, like as expected, there will be 36 Xfinity Series entries that will be able to race in the event. Now, the reason that they are increasing the entries in the NASCAR Xfinity Series is due to the major demand in the NASCAR Xfinity Series. Right now, especially going into Daytona, there's talk that up to 45 to 50 cars could be showing up for the Xfinity Series. There's possibly at least 51 or 52, though they do mention SKR Development's also been a team that's been mentioned for the event, but SKR Development is not expected to run more than 10 races, and their first race is expected to be Richmond with Rafael Lessard. But you're seeing the increase in Xfinity Series fields. Now, why are we seeing more trucks in Xfinity Series fields, an increase in that? Well, think about this. Why are we seeing a big demand? Well, take a look at the car that's coming back. The Gen 6 chassis are going to the NASCAR Xfinity Series teams, and there are so many of those available right now because NASCAR is not using a Gen 6 car anymore as they're going to the Gen 7 or the next gen car. A lot of those parts and pieces are going to the Xfinity Series teams and also the ARCA teams as well. That's why we're seeing the major increases in fields and the major demand. To me, I would have liked to see maybe a few more entries, maybe up to 40 Xfinity Series entries, maybe 37 or 38 Truck Series entries. But I don't disrespect NASCAR for that they're not really increasing the fields much more bigger than that. So overall, that I'm really happy and really excited that they are increasing the size of the Xfinity Series and the Truck Series fields. You have so many new teams are coming in next year. XQR Development. You've got Our Motorsport expanding to 3-car operation. Jogas Racing is unfortunately shutting, basically downsizing a 3-car operation and among other things. But I think having the Xfinity Series fields have some more drivers in the field, I think is really exciting and very awesome at the same time as well. And you look at the Xfinity Series. I mean, people were saying we should have dual races for a Daytona, which they're not going to do that. But I think having the Xfinity Series and Truck Series fields increase in their size, I think that's something that's really awesome with the demand for the Xfinity Series. I know the Cup Series, there's talks that we're not even going to have full fields for this year, but overall, very excited for Xfinity Series and Truck Series that they are going to be expanding the size of the fields next year. Very excited, and this should be announced here as you're currently watching this. This should be officially announced here really soon. I think it's something that's really awesome, to be perfectly honest with you. I think it's really exciting. And now we're going to go ahead and jump on to the first of two major stories in today's episode, as we are talking about the SRX. As was officially announced today, this morning, the 2022 SRX schedule is officially revealed. Here is the schedule that you guys are seeing on the screen. So the season is going to be kicking off at Five Flags Speedway on June 18th. Then we'll go to South Boston Speedway on June 25th. Then we're going to go back to Stafford on July the 2nd. We were at Stafford last year. That track is returning on the schedule. Then the next week, we're going to be going to the National Fairgrounds, which will take place on July 9th. Then we're going to I-55 Raceway on July 16th. And the season is going to end at Sharon Speedway on July 23rd. First of all, I really like the schedule, but I would make some changes here. First of all, I do think that the SRX schedule needs to be expanded from 6 to 8 races. I do think that the schedule is a little bit short, but I think they need to expand it to 8 races. The only things I also don't like about the schedule is the fact that Slinger Speedway is not on the schedule. I think Slinger should have been on the schedule. I think the Slinger race was the best race that we saw last year, so I'm disappointed that Slinger is not getting back on the schedule. That being said, though, I do like that there are a lot of changes on the schedule this year. 4 out of the 6 races that are not returning this year. I think IRP is one of them that was not returning. Eldora, but Eldora, of course, no surprise that Eldora is not returning, considering the fact that Eldora is hosting that $1 million race. That was not added to this year for the SRX. But I also do like the schedule overall as well. First thing, having Five Flags Speedway come on the SRX schedule. Five Flags Speedway has hosted the Snowball Derby in Pensacola, one of the best late model races, basically the Super Bowl race for late model racing. You get so many different types of drivers that come out to that event, similar to the Chili Bowl. So I'm very happy that Five Flags Speedway is one of the new tracks coming on the schedule. South Boston Speedway, a track that I think that is very underrated short track, a track that's hosted a lot of great late model races, and of course, a lot of great NASCAR Xfinity Series races and Truck Series races as well. A very historic short track. I like South Boston being on the schedule. Next track, I-55 Raceway. This is a race that I'm really looking forward to because this is my hometown track. I only live like 3 or 4 miles from the track. And before I moved here to Festus, Missouri, I lived in Peabody, Missouri, which is like 2 miles from my house. And every night I could hear the cars going. And of course, I think I-55 Raceway hosts a lot of World of Outlaws races. I'm not sure if I'm going to say this, but I may be out of that race if things get better in my life. I might be out of I-55 Raceway going to that event. So I'm super excited for I-55 Raceway. My home track is actually getting an SRX date, and I think that's really exciting, and I think fans should be happy for that. And finally, Sharon Speedway. Sharon Speedway is Dave Blaney's racetrack, so I would not be surprised if we see both Dave Blaney and Ryan Blaney compete in the Sharon Speedway race as a season finale. I would also maybe flip-flop Nashville and Sharon Speedway, maybe flip-flop those dates, have Nashville be the season finale since Nashville Fairgrounds was a really, really cool event overall. So I'm very, very happy about that schedule, and I think it's a nice looking schedule. And SRX, I think that 2022, they did not really make a profit in 2021. They're looking to make profit in 2022. They announced that Don Hawk's going to be the CEO this year, and that's, I think, something that's really, really cool at the same time as well. Overall, very, very high, really excited and very, very happy for the SRX heading into the season. I wish there were a few more races on the schedule, and we're also expecting some really, really cool driver announcements. There's expected to be some more one-offs coming into the event. Ken Schrader will probably race in that I-55 race since Tony Stewart is good friends with Ken Schrader, and Ken Schrader's been helping him out. I think that I-55, though, being on the schedule, that's the race I'm looking forward to the most because I think that's going to be really, really fun. So overall, I'm a big fan of this year's SRX schedule. I think it's a nice looking schedule. Again, I would make some changes overall with the schedule, adding a few more races, but I love that they're also going to New Ritas. And one thing I did not mention is they're having the first race happen during the NASCAR off week, as it's going to be the Father's Day weekend. They're actually going to be no NASCAR racing during that weekend. So I think that they are being very, very smart by starting the season. And I think a lot, especially racing fans, are going to be looking for something that's really, really entertaining and looking for racing to watch. Well, look, no fear. Five Flag Speedway is going to be hosting the first SRX race. Is going to be opening up the season this year. So I really, really do like the schedule. I would make some changes, but I like that they're going to different varieties, going out to different markets, and I'm looking forward to the SRX heading this year. I'm very excited about it. I'm very excited for the SRX season heading into this year. And I hope they also have more fields this year. I think that the field size needs to be increased from 12 up to 20 cars. I would think they probably at this point have enough inventory to increase the size of the fields. There's been talk they may increase up to 16 to 20. So hopefully they do that. Hopefully they will increase the size of the fields for the SRX heading in this year. I'm so excited for the SRX, and I'm looking forward to the SRX season heading into this season. I think it's going to be fun. And now we're going to go ahead and jump on to the final major story of today's episode, as we are talking about Greg Biffle. Now, we've talked about NY Racing on this channel quite a few times. NY Racing has been teasing that they are looking to race in this year's Daytona 500. And we have been wondering who is going to be the driver for the 45 car. There have been speculation maybe Matt Benedetto could get in the ride, speculation Ryan Newman could get into the ride, speculation Roger Carruth could get into the ride, and JJ Yuley's another driver who could have gotten into the ride. JJ Yuley's been off the tab, though, because we know that he'll be driving a 13 for MBM Motorsports. Well, it looks like the driver is going to be Greg Biffle. As Candace Spencer, Lee Spencer reported on Twitter that there apparently had heard that Greg Biffle apparently was sighted and was getting ready to race in the 44 at the RCR facility. He was at the RCR, spotted at the RCR facility, and apparently Greg Biffle was getting fitted into the seat. Greg Biffle, holy crap. You think about Greg Biffle. Greg Biffle is 52 years old. He's a much older driver, but Greg Biffle has tended to make a couple one-off starts in the NASCAR Truck Series. 2019, he came back to the Truck Series and raced in the 51 for KBM and actually won that race in his first start back in nearly 17 years. Considering how bad KBM was in 2019, they were not really that good. Once Kyle Busch got into the rides or another Cup Series driver got into the rides, Greg Biffle won that event, which is really, really impressive. Then in 2020, he drove the 24 for GMS Racing, was actually in the top 15 and top 20 most of the race. I think he finished in 17th or 18th in that Truck Series event. Wasn't as good as he was in 2019 at that Truck Series race, but he did very, very good. The last time Greg Biffle competed in the Cup Series, though, was in 2016 when he drove for Roush Fenway Racing. Now, with them getting RCR engines in the 44 team, expected to get an alliance with RCR, and another context clue that tells me why Greg Biffle's probably going to be getting into this ride and why this is going to probably end up happening. They follow Greg Biffle and Richard Childress Racing on Instagram. And that tells me why they're probably going to have Greg Biffle in the car. Having a legendary driver like Greg Biffle back in the Cup Series, I think is going to be something that overall is going to be very fun for the series. Greg Biffle, someone's also made a lot of jokes over the years, and someone that I think who's kind of one of the most underrated NASCAR drivers in history. Yes, he does not have a NASCAR Cup Series championship, but he does have an Xfinity Series championship from 2002 and a Camping World Truck Series championship from 2000. And a driver that really started his career really at a much older time than a lot of people think. And Greg Biffle's first start, of course, came back in like 1995 and 1996, but didn't start having success like 1997 and 1998, and was really crafted up by Roush. He kind of stayed with the team in their fall, and we've been wondering if Greg Biffle will ever make a start in the Cup Series once again. having him back in the Cup Series is just something so awesome and just something incredible. I mean, it's what's also so cool is there's been so much interest from so many older drivers. You've got Jacques Villeneuve driving the 7 for Team Haysbert. Boris said back in the Cup Series, racing road course races for MBM Motorsports. And even Carl Edwards, yes, Carl Edwards, he's been even interested in the next-gen car. Well, he's not planning to come back in 2022. Carl Edwards has had interest because of the increase in horsepower. And now you're going to have Greg Biffle coming back to race, and most likely coming back to racing in the Cup Series. I think that's something that's so awesome. And, of course, we're still unsure if they're going to show up. But I think that NY Racing for the first time is going to show up in years. And if they actually do show up, this will be the first start for NY Racing since 2018. But if they're getting RCR engines, that's something cool. Another big question to have in regards to NY Racing is, are they going to just run the Daytona 500, do a one-off for Greg Biffle, or are they going to have a rotation of drivers race throughout the season? And are they, of course, going to show up are they going to show up throughout the whole entire season? Because there's been talk maybe they'll run the whole season, but there's also talk they may just run part-time throughout the season. That's one thing we're going to have to wait on, but I am super excited to have Greg Biffle potentially back in the Cup Series. Having him back in the Cup Series and racing in the biggest race, the Daytona 500, I think is something that overall is very awesome, very exciting, and I hope that we get to see Greg Biffle return to the NASCAR Cup Series. I think it'd be something that'd be very great and very awesome, to be honest with you. So, anyway, that's today's long NASCAR and motorsports video. I want to thank you guys for watching. Please subscribe to the channel, notification on to be notified when a video does go live on my channel. Follow me on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram, and support me on Patreon as well. Let's go below over that and comment your thoughts on today's video. What are your thoughts about Greg Biffle potentially returning to the Cup Series? Do you think that NY Racing is actually going to show up or not? Let me know in the comments below. And what are your thoughts about the SRX schedule? Do you like the SRX schedule, or do you think that there's going to be more different types of tracks on the schedule? Let me know in the comments below. First of all, if you've probably noticed, if my voice does not sound great, I apologize for that. I kind of caught something over the weekend. I'm still recovering from that. Also, I will be having my race predictions for the Busch Clash at some point this week, and my thank you for 1,000 subscribers video will be dropping at some point this week. Check those out. We're less than a week from the season. I'm really excited for the racing season to get back underway in NASCAR. So anyway, like I said, I want to thank you guys for watching today's video, and I'll see you guys next time for some more great and awesome NASCAR and other motorsports content on the channel like this. Take care, everybody.